call and has been around with the organization. A lot of the people, even if they're not on this call, they've been around a long time, much longer than me actually. And it's people, it's artists who have put in a lot of work. And, you know, we always try and grow our audience, and, you know, we change with the times as we do with this.
That's right. Well, right now, this is a perfect forum. I mean, you know, it's a perfect and common and accepted. I've never really had as many dialogues with artists, curators, colleagues around the world as in the past 4 months, because there have been fewer things bringing us together in such an easy way. Walk out of a room, sit down at your computer, and the art world's there. So that's pretty good. That's what I'm thinking. So it's great.
Cynthia, I'm going to continue the thought with you. I'm going to do a brief introduction because we have a nice group, and I think your conversation is hitting on a key point. I want to welcome everybody. This is Artist Talk on Art. I'm Barry Kostrinsky, the president. Artist Talk on Art, during these times, we've moved to virtual presentations like this. We do regular Monday, every Monday, 6 o'clock Zoom meetings when things are safe again. And unfortunately, that's not down the road very soon. But when they are, we'll go back to meeting at 12 West 12th at the First Presbyterian Church. All the same, this is what we do now, and we're a 501(c)(3). We're an organization that has been holding art talks for over 45 years, and we're going to continue to do so. And it's artists like yourself that come together and share ideas that sort of stimulate other artists, stimulate curators, collectors, and we hope to hold a forum where people can share ideas. I want to welcome Sophia, our intern from out west. Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
Sophia is also an artist, and she does a lot of the work on the Instagram, the Facebook, and as you can imagine, there's a lot to do in any organization. I'll mention this once or twice. We're a 501(c). Everything we do now is for free. We ask for you, if you like, and if you can, to support us. You can go on our website. There are several different ways to do so. It's ATOANYC.org, and we'll make it easy for you. Your support really helps us with our programming and our minimal costs, but it's appreciated. So again, welcome everybody. Cynthia, I'd like to start with you and just sort of continue the conversation we had and where you were going. You were mentioning you're able to speak now to more artists and more curators, and you have more dialogues.
And that's true. I think that, what please? I think that because we are all remote in different places to one extent or another, somewhat isolated, or at least more, you know, more than we've been ever, I remember. The way to reach out to colleagues again has a whole new sense of relevance. And it's a wonderful opportunity, like why I explained that I've been on one of your panels 35 years ago at least. And I ran across, well, a friend mentioned that your organization to me. It made me look you up and then see that there was a session in 5 minutes. So that in itself was pretty remarkable. And I just jumped in. I had no idea what the topic was or anything else, but there's a lot of serendipity that's going on, and also a lot of, I think, purposeful and significant art.
I think you're breaking up a little there. I think we'll pause. We'll pause with Cynthia. She's having a little problem with the audio. I think we're all experiencing that problem. Yes. So I'm going to move on forward.
Progression with the degree of.
Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes. Now I hear you again. Yes. So good. So, yeah, my point was that, well, Zoom meetings like this give artists curators, collectors, that normally you would only have in a gallery. You know, and so they're just, I think, a home of opportunities exist and very fruitful dialogue. So I look forward on your agenda.
Yes, yes, I think you're right. Just like whether it's Facebook or Instagram, they opened up new platforms for connecting to certain writers and artists, museum directors and curators. Now these Zoom meetings have set up, you know, these are museums without walls now, and whole new ways for people and groups to form in dialogue that you might not have seen when you went to the museum nor the gallery.
Yeah, no. So it gives an intimacy, there's an intimacy and an immediacy. And that's what's really wonderful. And then the chances, I said, to reevaluate and reach out. So I'm looking forward to hearing from your presenter tonight. Thank you. I'm glad I joined.
Thank you, Cynthia. And Cynthia, again, Cynthia Goodman, where are you from now? Are you in the city?
I'm in Philadelphia. So I used to be in New York, now I'm in Philly. But at any rate, not far away. Yeah, good. Another good art city. Yes, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for
Welcome.
sharing. Thanks for sharing
You're welcome.
and finding
Nice.
feedback.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure.
Next, I'm going to move on. Michael Krasowitz. Michael, you ready to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Michael.
Well, I just had a meeting at doctor's hours at NIFA. You know, one of those things where you present your work to a curator or something like that. So today's doctor's hours. So I did one at 3:30 and I'm doing another one at 7:30. So that was interesting. And I made another, pulled a print today. I can probably show you on, not a good presentation, right? But yeah, I can show you on Instagram if you want. Maybe better. Sorry. It's not exactly looking nice to you today. But anyway, so I did that, and I thought I'd show this video I found. This is something I did in 2014, and I thought I'd share it. This was a monoprint project where I was connecting one print to the next print to the next print. So I'd make like one and then kind of stream of consciousness make the other. And this is the final piece. Anyway.
What's the medium? That's so cool.
It's monoprint.
Oh, OC.
So what I did was on the bottom, there's a strip of LED lights that were modulating the color. So when you walked in the room, you would get this kind of like effect.
Wow.
I think that's brilliant. Michael, did you literally do one and then sort of flow off of it and do the next and the composition? You did.
Yeah, I put a table in the middle of the room and I built it. And I did the floor and the ceiling too. I don't know if it'll show that. I'm not trying to remember what I did. But it was supposed to be like this inner cube where you stood inside the cube and it had this pulsing effect. It's really interesting how LED lights modulate the colors. I've tried to recreate it. It's a few years old. I tried to recreate it, but it's never really been the same. This plexiglass, I put plexiglass on the top so that it would, so you could walk on it. Anyway, this goes on forever. So that's the ceiling. It was really interesting. When people sat in the room, they would start chanting and kinds of interesting things. This is the light switch. I couldn't recover that. So.
You know, it almost has like a mosaic, almost a Spanish or Mediterranean feel, tile work.
Yeah, this is, you know, like I had to come up with a process. Same thing with the one I just showed you. I have to come up with a process where I can print with, I didn't have to have a press. So this is technical. This is Arches 88 paper, which is very absorbent paper. And I was able to use this, this ink and print, do the drawing, put the paper down, use the back of my hand to make the print. So it's technically very, very simple. So I was able to, you know, do something. The same thing with this print I made today. I'm just using a Beren to make a print. So you know, I'm always looking for, anyway, inexpensive ways to solve the problem. It's interesting. That came out of a project where I did a printed day for a year. I did a mono printed day for a year. And then I started doing multiples. So I was doing like grids of 6, grids of 8. And then I got this idea of building it out into the room. I saw this really interesting today. My friend is an art historian, and he was talking about the evolution of Jackson Pollock and how he went from, you know, learning from studying with different artists and copying them and emulating them to creating his own process. And it was really interesting how he showed the timeline. So that's where I got this from today.
Leah?
Sorry.
I think I'm muted. Are you familiar with Jean Dubuffet in France?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. He did a room that is entirely in the same feeling as what you've done. And you would visit it and they would close the door. And you literally couldn't find where the door was once you were inside. It was an amazing place. It's very, very well known. If you Google him, I'm sure you'll find it.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, that was the cool thing about this is I'd only stayed up for about a week because that's like the extra bedroom, and I converted it. I don't know why. I should have left it for a while. But that was really interesting. At one point, people were lying like sardines, head to foot to head. And they were all laying on the floor, and one guy started chanting Gregorian chants. It was really interesting how it created a, you know, pretty fun. One guy brought a drum and he was drumming. It was really interesting how people came in. Anyway, so
I like it. You know, brings in thoughts of Kusama's infinity room. You're not using mirrors, but you're setting up an enclosed space. It's your world. Your full environment, ceiling, floor, all 4 sides. The lighting is brilliant because it changes the coloration. And I remember being in the Guggenheim for, I think, a Terrell in the downstairs where people were lying down looking up at the light change. So I'm familiar with people getting relaxed in the right environment. So you're certainly a bright, active environment too. And there's a lot of energy. A lot of expression in your stroke. Very nice work.
Thanks. It's interesting. I've tried to recreate it. I haven't been able to find the right environment to recreate it yet. I've tried it. I just recently did it at the Clemente. They had a open call, but they had a hallway. So I tried to make it an arch, and you walk through the arch, but it didn't quite have the same effect because I couldn't do the floor and I couldn't close it off for fire escape reasons. But anyway.
Have you ever thought of mixing a couple of mirrors in, you know, little rectangles, summit angles, mixed in with the drawing so you get that depth play and that illusion?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing about her mirrored room. I went to, in 1978, I went to the Albright Knox, And there was a mirror room in the Albright Knox way back when. So when she started doing this, to me, when I saw it, I was like, oh, I saw that before. I don't know why. I had never been in one of hers particularly, but I had seen this infinity room before. I don't know if it was her idea or somebody else, but I was always like, I don't know, I saw this before. I don't know why everybody's getting so excited about it. But mirrors may be interesting. I don't know. I said it's one of those projects where you just happen to have the space and.
Right. Yeah, to do a room. Well, thank you, Michael, as always, for sharing. Where's your studio again?
Me? Oh, talking to me, Barry?
Yes, where's your studio again?
I'm in Huntington on Long Island.
Okay.
So just working on your house.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, guys.
Fran Beeler, would you like to present next? Fran? Let's see.
Barry, thank you so much for asking me. I'm actually not at home, not on my computer. I'm on my phone, so I'm just jumping in to hear, take a listen. I can't even stay the whole time, but I'm really enjoying so far. It was great to see Michael's work. I love that piece, Michael. I've seen it before. So next time I'll share, but I look forward to hearing everyone else.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming again, Fran. Always good to see you.
Sure. You too.
Elaine Forrest. Okay, we'll have a go. And Elaine, where are you again?
I'm in the financial district.
That's right.
Okay, so let's see. Go to here. And I thought I got it. It's here. Close. Share. Wait a minute. Let me bring you back. Whoops. Oh, God. No. I got it all ready, and my Zoom meeting is here, and I hit the screen share. Let's see. Do you see it?
Perfect. But I see live photos, portrait.
No.
I see your screen. You got to go back a little, I think.
You are sharing. How about here?
Are you zoomed in right now to your photos app?
Let's see. Here it's here, and I have what I want to show. I want to show these cards, and
Elaine, the best thing might be to get out of screen share. And when you get back into screen share, you have to choose the particular window where it should give you different choices. And you want to choose the choice. Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
All right, I'm going to show, and now let me get rid of this. Okay, this is a project that I did about 2 years ago. But I would like to flow differently. Maybe if it's here. Okay, this is better. Can I share this? Okay.
That's perfect.
Get out. Can you see the cards?
Yes.
Okay, let me get rid of that. So can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so these cards are about 30 inches high by 20 inches across. And I did cards, and it really has to do with the shootings that were happening in the high schools. So, and the children that were being shot. So this is the Queen of Diamonds, and this one had to do with aging. The Queen of Hearts is aging.
Beautiful.
Oh, and the Queen of Diamonds from Tiffany. And I included this one for Mitch, because this is the piece I'm going to be submitting for Save the Earth. And it's an oil painting of a fire that took place in California.
Elaine? Elaine,
Yes.
can you talk about that painting a little bit?
Well, I did several paintings for that particular show that's going to be at the church. I did one I didn't include about the what's happening in the oceans with garbage and plastics. So there's a scene, this one just has to do with fires and how people are careless, and how there's also very spontaneous fires that take place. It has to do with the environment.
Can you show us it again, the image?
Yeah. Let's see if I can do that. Here it is. Share. Okay, let's see.
When Elaine posted this on Instagram, it was like, wow, came out really good.
Can you see that? I don't know. I've got to pull it down.
There you go. Scroll.
You know it?
Scroll up. Scroll up. Yeah. So, what's the medium on that?
It's oil on canvas.
Oil. Okay.
And the others are drawings, really just drawings. I freehanded the lines and the images.
Yeah, colors came out great. Thanks.
Very nice. I like that series, Elaine. Obviously, what you did with Trump, and you brought up high school shootings. Our minds have swung so far in a short time. You bring back, terrible things that have happened recently, and it's sad to say I almost forgot them, given what we're dealing with now. Very nice work.
Thank you. In the last 24 hours, haven't you heard about all these shootings that are happening? I don't understand why we haven't gotten rid of guns. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So
Change is very hard, even when you need it and know it. Sometimes it takes like 90% to tip an event, because people are used to the past. There's economics that propel the past to continue. But we as people are, unfortunately, that's why the hope is the young, the new, and they won't. I don't think, Sophia, you tolerate. Another generation does not accept what the previous one accepted by mistake. And we made a lot of mistakes here, and every country did, to people, and, freedoms, terrible atrocities still going on. Lot to do. Thank you, though. Thank you for sharing and seeing art that's socially conscious. If you just unshare the screen, we're going to go to Norma Greenwood. Again, I want to thank everyone for being a part of this Artist Talk on Art presentation. Norma is one of our board members, and of course is an artist as well. Norma, are you there?
I am. I'm just, let's see. I'm trying to get to,
Well, what is this cloud I have?
Norma, where are you now? Are you?
Okay, all right. So I'm home, and I'm on the Upper East Side, and it is pouring. It's just like, wow, what a thunderstorm we're just having. I guess you are too.
No.
No. Oh my goodness. Well,
Wait, how do I get it?
we are here.
Norma, we're having it on the west side too. It's huge hailstones.
I know. This is really
It's a little crazy. It's so scary. Anyway, beautiful work,
crazy.
Norma.
Yeah. Well, it's been so humid, so I guess that might alleviate it. I'm hoping, I'm screen sharing. I was trying so hard to take images from my travel drive and put them into a file with no success. So, if it doesn't work, I guess it just doesn't work. But let's see. Let me just see. Now, I have to see where it says screen share. I think I'm like so technologically savvy, and now I'm not. Just when I need to be. Now
Like,
I know
not in
nothing.
the
I'm
group.
sorry, I know nothing.
Norma, try it. When you do screen share, you'll get a screen come up and it'll offer you 4 or 5 choices. And I'm going to bring in my aces
Okay.
here.
All right, can you see anything there?
We still see the cloud mosaic plan. Oh, there we go. There's a change.
Oh.
All right, what are we seeing? Because I don't know. Are you seeing, okay,
Blue
let me
tiles.
close that. Can you describe what you're seeing? Are you seeing the mosaic floor? It looks like a cloud.
Yes,
Mosaic on
yes.
floor.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. All right, so I thought that I would share a project that's not new, but I think the project really has had a big influence on work that I've done since. And it was I also had a photograph here of some beautiful clouds. Let me bring this up. This was a public art installation that I did in the Jacksonville, Florida airport. And every time I hear that they're going to have a convention in Jacksonville, I think, well, they are going to have to use the bathroom. So they're going to see my stuff, right? My name is there. But anyhow, this was the plan, and I'd like to make it bigger. Wow. Did you hear that thunder?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Pouring and hailing. So the plan, I wish I could make this larger. It says mosaic plan. Do you see it now?
I think we only see part of the image.
I'd love for you to see the whole thing, because this was the actual plan. We worked with 10 millimeter mosaic tiles, glass tiles, that it was really interesting to create a huge 7-foot wall with 10 millimeter glass tiles, and to start off with a grid. And I don't have any training as in architecture, and there was an awful lot of everything had to be very exact. But if you could, can you see this? Can you see the sign, the women's sign and the wall and all of that? Or am I not showing anything?
No, I don't think so.
Norma, I think you're just showing the floor, what you called the floor before.
All right, let me see if I can close that thing.
Ah.
Yes, do not show, okay. Oh, all right, now I see everybody. Screen share. Okay, now share.
Oh,
And now?
perfect.
Okay, what do you see? Tell me what you're seeing.
See some
The
clouds.
Women's room and the clouds and the entrance to the ladies' room.
Okay, great. Let me close this. So, so that was, first of all, it was from photographs. I took a lot of photographs of clouds, and it was a really, here, can you see this one now?
Yes.
That's better because it covers your password to the 9th Street women. So we see your whole screen. You have some things open. Put something in the left.
Okay.
That's it. And you can make you know how to make your images bigger if you click on the edge and drag it. But we see all the clouds.
Maybe. All right. So I don't know that I'm making that bigger, but this one on the left was the actual plan. It was graphed out on paper, and working with the photograph, we graphed it out and then actually picked these tiles from big bins of tiles, and they were put together in what looked like a rug, like the back of a rug. And it may be a little confusing as I'm describing it, but they were laid in pieces up against the wall, 12 by 12. These 10 millimeter tiles were put into 12 by 12 grids, and the grids were put up against the wall. And you can see how beautiful these tiles are. They reflect the light and the colors, and, you know, and then you're working that way, you have no idea what this is really going to look like when it's up on the wall. But this is the women's room. You saw that. This again, and the experience was really, it was a really extraordinary experience to see this thing come together, and I really found it, you know, really powerful. Now here it is. Here's the airport, and so, you know, it's a nice feeling to see that you've done this thing and it's up there. It's really there. Very different. And then they gave me a solo show, which was okay. You know, it was nice. Nobody goes to see paintings in an airport. Everybody's rushing to a plane. But it was okay. Now here, let me share this. So this is a very recent painting that I want to show. And this painting, actually, this is not the finished painting. This is it in progress. I did a series of pillows, which I've been working on for a number of years in one form or another. And I feel that there was a lot of the clouds, the whole cloudscape thing generated a lot of this series of pillows. And I think you can see why. Let me go into something else. And I chose pillows and beds because I wanted to work on images of something that's common to everybody, that we all have in common, and treat it in a abstract way. And let me just see if I can find more. I'm sorry, I'm not as, like this is the first time I'm presenting and I'm not so prepared. But here we are. Okay, so here is that image, and that's that image completed. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one I just showed that was large. This is it completed. Here are some of my beds. Again, these are small and they shouldn't be, but let me show you one with pillows, a bed and pillows. And the pillows and the beds are they get more and more abstract as time goes on. This is one where you've got part of the bed, you've got the pillows. The pillows represent a lot of different things, but they become very figurative too. And they're almost, some of them, like this one, if I can open it, they become like nudes, like parts of figures. They become very erotic.
Very nice, Norma.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting, like Michael wanted to create a whole sort of environment. You did an installation in a space. I did like your use of the tiles. It was very interesting to get that breakup.
Very interesting, very, you know, a real stretch, because I'd never really studied architecture or architectural drawing. So it was a stretch. It was a very big learning experience. Had to work with the constraints of a budget, and I still wanted to, I had this idea, this vision of what I wanted to see there. And it normally probably would have cost at least 4 times the budget. I was able to talk the company, they're an Italian company, I was able to talk them into the fact that their product would be in this international airport where it would be seen, and that it would be a great thing for them. It could increase their visibility in the United States. And they fell for it. So that was good. That was really good.
Very nice. And I think don't underestimate, it's in a space, it's in an airport, people walk or pass by it or stop in, people you don't know, people traveling who knows where, at least in the past, obviously. So you'd be surprised. I think one thing artists don't get when their artwork is out there, sometimes people see it, respond to it, and the loop isn't finished. The artist doesn't know about the reaction. And I've been able to see that at times and relay to an artist what somebody said. And I think often you're in the blind when your artwork is out there. And it's often appreciated a lot more than you think. And especially in a public setting like that, it's seen quite a lot.
Well, Barry, I agree with you. And the nicest surprise was a couple of months ago, before COVID, somebody came by and they saw my website, and then they said, by the way, do you have work in the Jacksonville airport? And I said, yes. I said, well, I saw it, So that was a nice surprise, really. Good feeling.
Exactly, to the point. Thank you for sharing. And thank you again.
Thank you, Barry.
Henry, would you like to present? I see Henry's iPad. Bear with us a minute, everybody. And then Leah Poller, I figured you'd go next, Leah. So let's see if Henry responds, or Leah.
Okay. I stopped stop. Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Henry, would you like to share? I think you came on board, and also Leah. Let's see, I see.
Wow.
I think. Leah?
Let's see.
So Leah Pollard. Leah, where are you now?
I'm in Harlem, but I don't see what, okay, I got your share screen. Okay. And we just had this unbelievable huge storm. Okay. So for many, many years, I've been working on a series which I call a 3-dimensional metaphor, all related to words with the word bed, B-E-D. And I've made more than 100 of these beds. For the most part, they are approximately the size of a shoebox. But then I've made some that are much, much larger, and I've done installation pieces. So based on one of my beds, I was selected for the Biennale of Female Sculptors in Beijing. And it was the first time they ever had an American or a foreign artistry in the Biennale. It was quite an exciting moment. Okay. I'm losing the signal. Okay. All right. I did the same bed in a large version. You can almost sit on it, and I put a nice dragon tattoo. Okay. So, here's an example of a bed. Since I speak multiple languages, I often find words that have bed in them from other language. And this is called the lit d'ange. It's an angel bed. It's actually a takeoff of a bed that was from Napoleon Bonaparte's home. This is a bed of lettuce. So some of them are humorous. This one is somewhat of a takeoff on Arcimboldo with what he did with fruits and vegetables. This is a bed I dream at night that one day it will be 10 feet tall in the middle of a park somewhere. I did an exhibition. The very first image, in fact, was from the exhibition at Washington Square Park at the Gray Gallery, NYU. And they had all the beds in the windows, but no signs. And so I did a little bit like you suggested, Barry. I kind of hung out to see how people reacted to the beds. And some people actually, they stopped their bicycles and got down to look at them. Some people stopped their cars and stood in front of them. So there was one couple that just kept laughing and pointing to things. And so I went over to them and I said, do you get it? They said, yeah, it's all beds and they're all words with beds. So this one is pee in the bed, which is not the pee in the bed that you all know from childhood, but the princess and the pee in the bed. And fable. So I've shown this around the world, and it's quite interesting that something as simple as a 19th century fable has made the rounds so far that people all over the world get what this is. They recognize immediately it's the princess and the pea. This is a bed of reeds for Moses. And this is a pretty good example of some of the techniques I use. So I have found objects, I have sculpted objects, and then this was fabricated at the foundry on site. Okay, this is a sick bed, which is quite appropriate for the moment we're living today in this country. Bed and breakfast. And this is a hide-a-bed. So the inspiration from this hide-a-bed was actually a 1940s salesman's sample model of the first hide-a-beds, the first roll-out bed where you folded up the bed. And I know that it doesn't look like bronze, but it is all bronze. So I work a lot with the foundry on the patinas to get patinas that really are trompe-l'oeil. Okay, this is pining in bed, so it's made with all the elements that come with pine cones, and then the back, the headboard, has this really, really soppy poem to somebody's wife. And I used to always go to flea markets everywhere in the world, and I very often end up carrying something home that was really heavy and a pain in the neck to get through customs. The day I started to do the beds, I would go to flea markets. The pieces that I would find were so insignificant that the dealers would always say, take it, take it, take it. So I kind of filled my bags and pockets full of all of these little things that later, I never know when they show up and get integrated into an artwork. So this is bedazzled. So you have the word bed in it, bedazzled, and it's all with jewelry and fancy stuff. And this is a canvas bed, which is an homage to Jackson Pollock with the drip paintings. This is a bed of moss. This one is called litige, or a bed of twigs. And in terms of the casting nightmare that this represents, it was absolutely a miracle that they were able to cast something that had parts that were as thin as this and parts that were as fat as that, and were able to do it in one shot. This one's a little bit harder to explain. Okay, this is called a bunk bed. So everybody knows that a bunk bed is two beds, one superimposed on the other. But how would you ever find a way to say bunk visually? So I did some research on it, and I hit the dictionary and found that there was an old English expression that used to say, we would say today, BS, it's bullshit. the old days, they would say, it's a lot of bunk. And the colloquial form of that was a hogwash. Oh, you're just giving me a lot of hogwash. So this is my bunk bed with the hogs being washed. It's a baby bed. This is a death bed, which is an homage to Frida Kahlo. It's a takeoff on the bed that she did her last exhibition in. So I can go on and on because there's more than 100 of these, but it's very interesting to be able to take one theme and explore it endlessly, you know, from so many different sources of information and input and ideas, and then to go figure out how to say it where people will get it. And I get great pleasure in watching people have the aha moment when they figure it out. For the most part, I was very impressed that the only person who was able to really pin a name on almost every bed that she saw was a 9-year-old girl. And I always felt that the reason she could do that is that she had no inhibitions. And so she just ran with it and she found all the names. And her parents stood there and said, how did you do that? They couldn't figure it out. So happy to answer any questions that you might have. My goal is that this is not individual sculptures, but it's actually a complete work of art, just like the Dinner Party by Judy Chicago. It's a real treatise in 3 dimensions on the word bed and how it impacts our language.
Mitch, I think you had a question. Mitch.
Yes, Leah. Scale, are these actual real size beds?
No, I've done real size. I've done real size as installation pieces several times in different exhibitions. These are about the size of a shoebox, 8 inches by 10 by 12 inches approximately.
Great, great. And you did these back 2003, or you've been still doing them?
I still do them. Oh. I sell and I do another one.
And my favorite is my favorite artist of all time, Jackson Pollock. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great.
Very nice, Leah. Let me ask you a question. Great theme, and I think artists choose that. I know an artist draws an apple a day, or an artist has deals with the emotions of the day, or you pick something that you bite to. How did you come to doing beds? Maybe what were the early ones you did, and what's the relationship? Well, everybody's symbols are personal. So I guess I'm asking you, what's behind the bed?
Well, actually, it's an extraordinary question because I kept asking myself the same thing. And for years, I would relate it to an accident I had preparing for an exhibition. And I ended up hospitalized and then in bed for months. And I was told that I couldn't work on anything that was more than 2 pounds. And so I started to, from the bed, I started to make these beds. And I did maybe 15 of them and instantly got a show. And the show sold out the first night. And I kept getting calls. This is before we had Facebook and all that. I would get calls from people saying, have you thought of this word? Have you thought of that word? So I sat and I made this huge list of all the words that I could think of that had bed in it. And I was surprised at how many. There's hundreds of words. And that's where I left my story until I got a call one day from my daughter saying, Mom, you've got to come to Paris. That's always a good invitation. And you have to clean out the basement where all of your stuff from when you were at the Beaux-Arts studying is in boxes in my basement. So I went to Paris and I went through all these boxes and I came across these notebooks that I'd done when I was actually studying in art school. And there was a whole couple of pages that just morphed from talking about different words that interested me until I got bedroom, and then it just became beds, beds, beds. I never thought about that for 20 years. Completely forgot it. So I would suggest that if you are an artist, every second of every day, you are possibly gathering material for a future work.
Very nice. It's a nice way to look at it, and also shows you how much we go through. And as artists, I don't think we have to know where it's coming from or label it, but just to sort of run with it, produce it, feel it, emote it, share it. And yes, it can explain the self. It can be almost like Freudian psychology, or it can be an experiential psychology that alleviates maybe other things, or other things too. Art, as you know, art is not an easy get up and paint kind of thing. It's not that. Leah, that was brilliant and very interesting. I can't help but mention, Leah, I know you through Bruce Sherman.
Yes.
This is
Bruce.
it's a small art world. I just want to share that it's nice to see an ATOA friend and someone I actually knew. And you were on other talks, but when you brought up the beds, I was like, yes, I know an artist who focuses in on beds. And nice imagery. I think some of those, the one bed with the feet and the shoes in the corner and the people sort of squashed by the pillow, that had a very strong, surreal, nightmare effect going on. Very strong. It's not, your beds are not to be eaten with popcorn and a soda.
Well, you can take them lightheartedly, or you can dig deeper, and then you can find lots of references and details and information. But I would like to throw a question out to everybody today, and that is, we're going through some very intense times right now between COVID and Black Lives Matter and the economy, the elections. Is it affecting your work? Are you actually making work that you will now be able to look back on and say, oh yes, I did that during that period XYZ? Because I've been asked that question now.
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
I never dated my work before, but now I find that because this seems to be such an isolated time of my life, I'm putting the date when I start the work and when I finish it, because I feel like it's work done during the coronavirus time. I don't know why I feel that way. Do you feel that way? That this is work that you're doing during a special time?
Well, I did a series, I think I mentioned it, or I showed a piece the last time I was with everybody, that was a direct, let's see, COVID was responsible because I was having, I don't know, my 100th dinner alone and made this homemade soup, and there were these bones in the soup that looked up at me, and I said, hello, like, who are you? And I realized that these bones they had such incredible personality. I took them up my studio and I made a whole cast of characters and a work of art. And it's actually called Zoom Meeting of the Board, B-O-R-E-D. And I've given everybody personalities and names and everything. But now with everything subsequent to that, I feel like the last thing in the world I want to be pointed at is, oh, you did that because of. I absolutely don't want to be pigeonholed into, sticking something out there that makes people think that it was a response to this. I feel that that's a little bit too superficial at the end of the day.
Yeah. See, I don't feel that my work has changed, but I do feel that for some reason I'm dating it just because there's a start to this event. And mostly my life has flowed. Do you know what I mean? Unless I say I lived in California and I did work in California, I did work in New York. That's sort of a marking also. I think it's more of a marking of time that we're experiencing. Maybe your consciousness is different when you are isolated, so very isolated. That you were having dinner all by yourself each night.
Right.
I will say, from the talks we've been doing every week on Mondays like this, artists are sharing. So I'm seeing a volume of work. And what I'm seeing is different levels of integration of what goes on. And I will say it's a common theme that artists are presenting what's impacting their lives. Now, it's so strong, besides the isolation, the horror, this change is unprecedented. And artists have presented work that is directly showing things like you'd see in 2001 with Burning Towers. And other artists have taken in isolation and themes, not unlike Munch maybe did in a shot of the imagery from the pandemic of 1923 and the isolation and death. So I think artists are doing it without their choice. But it depends on the artist how much or how little they integrate. But I sense most artists are sensitive, and their work is built on what they see, feel, and experience, and there's that interaction. On the other hand, I, as an artist, I like to draw landscapes. So I go outside and I look at nature, and it is totally disconnected from what's going on in the world right now. That's something I do. At the same time, I'll photograph the street and a dead bird or a condom, and I'll show a history of the culture through detritus. So there are many different ways an artist engage, sometimes the current time, and sometimes nature is perpetual. But I think more artists are engaging it, and it's not on a superficial level from what I see. Thank you, Leah. Always a pleasure. I'm gonna say Jill Gerwitz or G.
Words.
Gerwitz. Sorry.
Words. That's okay.
Jill, where are you zooming in from?
I'm in the Lower East Side in New York. It's kind of interesting hearing you talk about the impact of COVID, because I haven't had the isolation. I'm a psychologist, so I have to go to the hospital every day, even during the height. So in my artwork, I'm usually a photographer, but I think initially when I was very anxious about COVID, I live alone. So I just out of nowhere just became interested in watercolors, and then sort of developing a new ritual. And this ritual of putting on like 30s music and doing watercolor is not anything I've ever done before. Like, I've always sort of looked at watercolors and I'm like, wow, I really wish I could paint. But then I just got into these abstract watercolors, and I think building rituals has sort of been important for myself and for the patients, I think for everybody really, because it's like all of a sudden the rituals that you had have shifted and changed, and life sort of stopped and then was standing still. So I haven't really been able to do my photographs so much, but I've been doing this watercolor. But I'm going to show you some photos from my website. Let me see if I can do this. Screen. I'm just trying to, let me see, advanced, basic. I'm trying to find, well, maybe here. Maybe, oh, okay. I'm trying to find my website. Maybe I'll do this. Can you see that?
We see everything that's coming through on your screen.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to show some photos. I took a class several years ago at ICP, and one of the places that we went to, it was a New York centric class. So I found myself really drawn to the Staten Island ferry, and just it's a strange thing. Like, you see people that are strange characters on the ferry, people sort of transfer, you know, going to and from home. This is a woman, she's so beautiful, and I just asked her if I could take her picture. But I found myself really drawn to people sort of deep in thought. You hear the, that was actually in the Staten Island, you know, where you catch the ferry on the Staten Island side. And I think she was one of the women that were in the class. But it seemed like people seemed to be really, that is something that I was drawn to, that people just sort of resonating with thought, stuck in thought. It's kind of ironic because I actually like that sense of isolation in a photograph, and not so like to try and capture. It's as if it's me and someone else, and I'm capturing them in isolation. And now it's like New York was really like a ghost town, but it is sort of hard to capture that sense of isolation, just pre-COVID times.
Of course, you had a field day with that once COVID came in. And then once the riots came in, you had quite the opposite. I mean, and we've had some incredible reverses of imagery in our streets.
I really like this picture a lot, but it's a little hard to see the whole thing. Now this woman, she looked like she was high on something, but it was just, and she just did not care that I was taking her picture. She was in her own world. And this is actually right before they let the gates open so people could get on the ferry. And this is on the Staten Island side. This is something that I did over the winter. I was taking an online photography class, and it was really, I never took an online class before. It was $75, and I got a lot out of it. You got feedback from other people in the class and from the teacher. So I decided to do, I used to have light in my room, and I love the light, so I used myself as a subject.
Those are beautiful.
Oh, thanks. These are actually image transfers that I did from the 90s. And also this was my father, I don't know, maybe it was, my father had died a few years ago, like 2.5 years ago. But I just found myself sort of really in the mornings, that's when the light comes through the window shades. Do we have one more, or?
Yes, let's see one more.
I don't know if I showed this to you last time. Oh, okay. So these, these are actually scans, digital scans. So it's kind of like a photogram, but it's a contemporary photogram where you instead of putting objects on photographic paper, that I put like jewelry and an old frame, and it was kind of, I couldn't believe like how very sharp it is and blurry at certain times, and it's totally random. But I took my jewelry, and I just sort of had been inspired by a photographer that I saw. So this is some of my jewelry and an old frame. These are just rocks that I put on my scanner.
You know, I'll have to say Man Ray came to mind before, and then when I saw the rocks, it's an odd reference to make, but I certainly do see a little bit of Man Ray or his influence.
Yeah, actually, yeah, so Ray, I think Man Ray created photograms. So this is actually for my enlarger. I actually put a flower on Polaroid paper. So it is actually a photogram. And this is a tulip. And this is back to the digital. This is actually a transfer, an image transfer of the tulip, and then I put some enlarger filters on there. Okay.
Nice, a very nice collaging of you know, photography and taking it, you know, going it back to its basics in a rayogram or something like that, but also going forward and mixing techniques and going digital and using that layering. Interesting collage. Very nice work.
Thank you.
And would anybody like to ask Jill a question or any thoughts or comments even?
How long have you been taking photos?
I've been taking photos since I was probably 11. My father owned color laboratories, and he had a miniature camera, like it was called a Minox, and it was like a spy camera, and that's when I first started taking photos. I used to, I went to Little Red Schoolhouse and I took some photos. Well, actually, probably, yeah, like 6th grade, maybe.
Oh, nice.
And
So did I.
Oh, okay. In high school, I learned how to develop film and print. I went to Elizabeth Irwin, and that's where I learned printing. And there's something, you know, like I switched over. I did some printing. I was in Chicago. I did some printing, and then I remember going digital. It's taken me a while to understand how to. I'm not very good at the mechanics of digital cameras, but I do more point and shoots right now, and I also do Holga cameras. But I've been doing it since probably 11 or 12, and also my dad owned color laboratories, so I've been around photography pretty much all my life.
Do you feel any difference when you're focusing on a person as compared to an object based on your profession as well?
You know, I think, well, it's interesting. Part of me is very, like, I have two parts to my personality. Part of me is sort of can be really assertive, and part of me is very shy and withdrawn, quiet or observing. And I think people are harder for me to take photos of because I feel like I'm invading their space, or it depends on if it's a portrait. That's a different story. But objects may seem less threatening to me in some ways than people, although I would like, it's, you know, I've done a lot of street photography, but I think that's where the sort of awkwardness comes in. So I think that's why I've focused on objects.
Jill, I've seen a lot of your work in the last year or so, and I think there's a lot of really interesting threads. But I'm kind of hoping, I'm looking for one thing to really catch your imagination and to really focus on it and to pull it together as a full statement. It's like you have a lot of pieces of something. And I'd like to see maybe some kind of narrative structure to it, or like this picture that you're showing with the frame. There's one particular piece I like a lot. The other ones are more, to me, more literal. This one is a little more kind of like it's about time. You know, there's like the Twilight Zone kind of feel to it. And I'd like to see that explored in depth, and then a cohesive presentation of that study. Because I think that you've got a lot of interest, you've got a lot of interests. And like the thing with I think the thing that you had of the pictures of yourself with the light was a very interesting series. I think that could be a book, but it needs a little more time and development. So you have some more things you can edit down and then fully explore that topic. Because I think that's just my job. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's really cool. But it doesn't, I think there's a difference. My feeling, I'm a photographer by trade, and I studied photography when I was a kid. I think I could be wrong about this. I think there's a kind of different expectation with photography than with any other art form. And I think it's because, and this, you're just thinking about this just now, a photograph relates to a particular moment. Whether it's abstract or anything like that, you say, oh, it's a photograph of this. So it's like freezing a moment in time, kind of. And I think that, to me, has always been, where is the narrative in that? What's the story in the picture? If I think of like Lee Freelander or any of these other great artists that Robert Frank, you know, it marks a moment in time, an era, and it has a cohesive relationship from one image to the other. So that's just my general observation. I'd like to see you take this thing and really run with it and spend some really deep time thinking about it.
Well, like, thanks to you, I've been taking this narrative photography class online, and I definitely think I'm gonna have fun with it and take things to a different level, probably with people. Like
I think it could be just pulling stuff out that you have and then looking over the last 10 years and saying, all right, here's all the stuff I've done of posters and seeing how it all works together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's actually a very good idea. I don't think people realize the opportunity when you have an exhibit up to see your work, especially a retrospective, and you get to see your work sort of in succession and how it's progressed. And I don't think we see our own work as well. Leah pointed out seeing beds she did when she was in school. Certainly some a wide variety of work inside your work, Jill, no question about it. And sometimes you just run with that and the artwork explores a venue for you. And at other times, Michael, you do synthesize it and it's additive, and sometimes it's not. And so the great thing about art is we get to choose that. That's our form of presentation. And from what I've seen, everything works. Yeah, I've always thought I do so many variety of things. It'd be nice to synthesize, but I don't care if I do, if I'm happy with the objects I put out. I feel they have some intention or they're alive in some way.
Well, there are projects that I'm working on, like the abstract, the photo abstractions, the reflections and rain pictures, and then also the fairy pictures, and also the light in my room, which is like a newer series. So I have sort of series, which I've been, like the abstract photos I've been doing for a long time.
Well, I see that even in your photos of people. If you look at them, you've said there's a geometry in your, just about all of your photographs that mimic to some extent your work with the watercolors and the geometry in there. There's no question about that, that's the understructure of your composition, but you're very central person focused. in the portraits, no question, you're going right to that person thinking. Interesting how you phrased the two sides, the assertive side and the quiet and passive side. I think you could say whether it's introvert or extrovert, there are two sides or many sides to us, and different sides appear at times. But again, that's fodder for us to work with as an artist. Your thought on ritual and building rituals, I think that's brilliant. You know, it makes me think of so many different movements in art, but also as people, what we do as cultures, whether it's religion. There's a lot of good behind a lot of religion. The ritual can sort of bring out a lot of good. Things do get perverted, but rituals and bonding to something and bringing intention and meaning and cherish, these can be great words directed the right way. And for an artist to set up a ritual of painting or a ritual approach, I think you're dead on. And Michael, she will travel, and to have done the switch from photography to abstract compositions in watercolor, that's quite a jump. And it is interesting to see where you progress and how you move.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss any artist? I think I may have. Was there anyone else who'd wanted to speak? I think we got everybody. I did ask one or two. There was somebody. I think that sort of catches us up. I'll show if anybody wants to raise your hand or say something. If you can unscreen share, Jill.
Oh, sure. I'm not sure how to. Oh, okay, wait. Stop share. Okay.
There we go. I will share one work. I am an artist, and I think what brings a lot of us to this table and a lot of us to arts administration, to galleries, to museum is that we're artists underneath, but we have a passion for it. So at base, that's what I am. I did make reference. I do enjoy drawing nature. I use my little fine point. I may have shown this before. I won't spare you the technical difficulties I have when I try and screen share. So I'll go old school. Look, I make a video.
Is it possible to maybe you bring it a little closer to the camera just to get some detail?
Did you do that on site?
Yeah, so I tend to draw in front of what I see. So if I'm at a table with friends, I may draw what's on the table, an object, the glass is a common theme. I draw over and over. When I'm outside, since I was young, I painted in oil, water, land, and sky. Very basic, boring compositions, horizontal stripes, very bad sort of horizon line, very static. But I get into it, and that's what I do. And even now at age 60, I'll go out and I'll draw. I'll see a setting that's water, mountains or greenery, and then a sky. And I will do a lot of horizontal strokes, like when I paint. There's little verticals in here, very quick, 15-minute sketches. I'll show you another one. Let's see. A sailboat going by. So I do like life drawing. I've run life drawing groups. And when a sailboat goes by, I have the time it takes for the sailboat to go by to draw it, and it shifts. So it's like a fun thing. I do live in Mamaroneck. I'm on the water in a harbor, so I'm able to do things like this. So that's my sailboat going by. And it sort of pushes you to do a quick line and to see quickly, which I often don't do. And then this, again, you'll see the same sort of.
Quick line. The Rembrandt, who does that?
So I did some of the dots, and there's no question, I think my goal is to look at the landscape and see Leonardo or Rembrandt's hand, those little curves. I do more of a graffiti, quicker hand. I don't have that. I do some other works where I'll hold 6 pencils at once, and I'll go really fast and whip it around. I'll show those another time. That gets something totally different. But I enjoy this. It's very, the crazy thing is, art is not relaxing. When I'm drawing something like this and I'm doing it right, I'm looking and seeing and responding so quickly that I have to push myself and do it. There's no thinking. There's like a first thinking and a doing. And as my brain catches up, I'm already on the next thing. The reason I bring this up is because it's actually slightly painful. It's actually it's a great feeling. I'm in the moment, but it's not that it's too dynamic. There's something about it. And that's all I could say, that, it goes way beyond the painting being difficult. This is when I'm resolved and I'm doing it right. And when I oil paint it, as I see and I'm outside and I see nature and I want to make the mark, I see all of nature at once. I've got brushes. How can I do that? I got one color on a brush. I could do one dot. It's very hard to see it all and do a true stroke. And it can be true, but at best it's a minimal representation. So art, it can be challenging, and I like that. But it can also, you would think it would bring the most joy. When I finish painting and I've done work, I'm insightful for 30 minutes. It's brought me an elevated sort of seeing, and I watch it wear off as I go back to being a normal, sightless, Wonder Bread kind of guy. But my point is, I think art elevates us. We all have different approaches, and different approaches at different times. By sharing our ideas and our thoughts, I think we sort of come together. And I've been thinking about humans as a community, as a beehive. And I know it sounds crazy, but the more I see us connecting on Zoom, the more I see the influence of artists and people mentioning, we're a beehive that's not solid. It's sort of developed lightly through culture, through art, over time. We all sort of fill the threads and react to it. We pull out of the same ether our ideas. It's a shared cloud we fill up with thoughts and things like this. Art is a language too that's nonverbal, and a lot of you are sharing imagery that's communicating. It's communicating without language, and it's visual, but it's got implied meaning. It's got substance of being human, has your personal feelings. So, art is, I'm just happy to be a part of doing art, being a part of the Artist Talk on Art, for you guys coming and sharing. It's always a pleasure. Every Mondays we do this. We will have more formal programming like we used to have, where we have a specific topic and we have a panelist talk. This we're going to continue to do, and you guys make it happen. Again, go to our website if you'd like to support us. Information's there. It's atoanyc.org. I got to thank the full board and Sophia for recording this and doing everything as she always does. Sophia claps. Claps, Sophia.
Claps for Barry. Thanks, Barry, for hosting every week.
Barry, you're awesome. It's so great to hear you're so knowledgeable about art and drawing references, bringing things together, and really hearing your insights and your observations. It's just really refreshing and great.
Thank you. And I want to say that's an example of, if you think about something your whole life in your mind, you will learn from it. And I have for some reason, I think about art my whole life. It's, I assume most of you do too. Just the same, thank you so much. Very sweet, Jill. Thank you for coming. That really inspires me. See you next Monday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.